Life is a beautiful thing when it's lived according to principles, the right principles. And life becomes really shitty when you're not living according to principles. I've shared many of the principles in the past. I have videos about that. I've shared some principles here as well. For example, one principle is that the pursuit of love for reality is not a luxury. It is the core. It is essential. It is crucial. Without it, you're lost. That's one principle. You take that principle and now you build your whole life around that principle. This is an eternal principle. It has always been true for humans and it always will be true for humans. Another principle is work ethic. You cannot have a great life without developing work ethic. When you realize that, then you're going to do whatever it takes to develop the work ethic. It doesn't matter if you've been lazy in the past or if you don't know how to build a work ethic. It doesn't matter. When you realize the principle that either I develop a work ethic, strong work ethic, or I will have a shitty life, you only have one option at that point, which is to develop a work ethic no matter what. You're going to go read the books, struggle through whatever practices you need to, build the habits you need to eventually develop that work ethic. Another principle is facing your fears. Because fear is the opposite of love. And if you're going to pursue deep love, your primary obstacle is going to be various sorts of fears that you have. And you've got many of them. And those fears need to be faced head on and conquered. And it's the conquering of those fears that makes life rewarding. And that makes the love deeper. Another principle of life is that you're going to get what you put into it. I've said that in the past. So when you realize that, now you become excited about investing every single day into your life, and you invest and invest and invest and invest more and more and more, and it builds upon itself like a snowball. And then it starts paying more and more dividends. And the earlier you start to do that, it has compounding returns, just like in the stock market. Another principle is to be constructive rather than destructive. That's a topic I'll address in the future by itself. It's a very important topic, but a lot of people get mired in criticism, judgment, debates, ideological arguments, trying to debunk others, trying to troll others, attacking others, doing violence to others. I mean, probably half of the world's energy is wasted on destructive activities. It can be very seductive. When you have no better constructive plan or vision, then destruction is the only joy the ego gets. And it's much easier to destroy a thing than to construct something beautiful. But if you've got a clear sense of what you love and what you're going to be doing, you have a clear vision, then you can get very constructive about it. And you ignore all the destructive stuff. You eliminate all the destructive stuff from your life, all the criticism, all the trolling, all the attacking, all the demonizing, and you just focus on being constructive all the time, and you fall in love with being constructive, the act of being creative. Creativity is one of the greatest joys of life. It's a question of how do you want to be creative? Because reality is infinite creativity. There are many other principles. I won't articulate them all here. I'd have to sit down and think deep about them to make a long list. And I have done some of that in the past and probably will do more of that in the future. But you get the point. But these principles, you gotta contemplate them and think about them deeply until they penetrate into your mind. You really get their significance. That's when it starts to transform you. It transforms you. And see, these principles, they can't just become beliefs and dogma. You have to sort of derive them, or at the very least, you have to think through them enough to see why they work or how they will play out in your life. And then when you do that, then you get interested in obeying those principles. And of course, you're going to fall off track with following these principles many times, but you bring yourself back and back and back and back. And it's a sort of discipline of bringing yourself back to the principles, to the principles, to the principles. Every time you fall off, you bring yourself back until you ingrain them very deeply into your psyche. And then they will shape your life, and they will make your life easier. Then when your friends tell you to, hey, let's go party and go drinking and binge drinking and this sorts of stuff, or doing drugs, you tell them no, because I'm sticking to a certain principle. I'm going to get much more pleasure out of the creative work that I'm doing, the life that I'm building, than I will from one night of binge drinking. So I'm going to go to bed early today, so tomorrow I can wake up in the morning and get back to work on my creative pursuits and building the kind of life that I want. Or I'm going to, rather than go binge drinking, I'm going to sit and meditate or do my yoga practice. And when your friend comes to you and starts to criticize somebody and starts saying a bunch of negative and destructive stuff and starts telling you to join him in his destructive activities, you're going to say, no, I'm not interested in that, because my life is about being constructive. I'm pursuing creative endeavors that I love, and I'm just going to keep my eye on that prize, on the ball. And I'm not going to engage in your destructive, trolling, criticizing, ideological activities, because I got something higher to live for. I'm not going to dishonor my life and the universe by engaging in that kind of nonsense. And by doing that over and over and over again in your life and instilling these principles in yourself, that's when your life starts to then become amazing, after years of doing that, after years of building your foundation. This is what creates healthy meaning in your life, a healthy purpose.